The victim mentality is the thief in the night. It's the thing. It's the scourge on planet Earth. I will debate anyone over that.
Today, we will be discussing phobias, magic, and how language shapes our reality with our guest, Mark England of Procabulary.
Mark, well, I guess thanks sort of for being a guest on our podcast. I think it's probably going to be an okay show. I mean, well, maybe someone will listen to this episode.
Mark, thank you for agreeing to be a powerful and transformative guest on our podcast today. This episode is going to be one of an amazing benefit to our listeners. And in fact, it's probably going to be our most listened to podcast of all time. As you could tell from our introductions, language and how we use it can be immensely powerful or not.
So we're excited to speak today or about Procabulary today with our guest, Mark England. But before we get started, Mark, you've had a very interesting journey to get to this point in your life. You had to make a large pivot and change how you view yourself and your purpose. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. And that was a great, excuse me. That was a great intro, by the way. We have an exercise that we do depending on the group. It's called soft goals. We'll have everybody write a goal down and then something audacious, something for next year. When people get into next year mind frame, that's usually the goals are a little bigger. And then we'll have them put a maybe or a sort of or a kind of. I'm kind of going to earn six figures in 2021. And it's just, yes, great. I love that. That was awesome. I thought I was a tough guy. I did back in the day in high school and college. That was my MO. In 2002, I'd been competing in training and competing in mixed martial arts fights. Late 90s, early 2000s, and all of my friends were going pro, getting their black belts, opening up schools. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do something like this, take it to the next level. Yeah, let's move to Thailand for a year, sharpen up the skills, come back, go pro. It's a good story. I liked it. I did. I moved to Thailand, and the wheels came off. Because, well, there's a couple of becauses there. Keep that long, painful story short and to the point. With the intro is that darkness descended. You know, I got over there, and 6 months in, I was having my second knee surgery, and the doctor told me plain as day, said, "You're done. You're cooked. You could become a very good swimmer." Which is exactly what I wanted to do at 26 years of age. I mean, that was exact. I was sweet. I'm gonna get in the pool and do some laps, and that'll be fun. No, I didn't laugh for an entire year. I might not even smiled, but due to the raging victim story, the raging victim mentality that I entrenched in my mind, in my head, in my heart. I thought I was done. I thought that was the final nail in the coffin of it being definitive proof that I was a loser, and that there was something wrong with me, and I was doomed to fail. See, now you got the proof. You were always afraid of it, and here it is. You went for something big, and you just skid marked on your face across the pavement. And yeah, so much so that I chose to stay over there. I ended up living in Thailand for a decade. One of the best decisions I've ever made. And initially that choice was because I'd rather be a no one in a foreign country, in a massive city. Bangkok's a massive city, than to go back home to Richmond, Virginia, and not be the fighter. So I stayed over there, and I lived in Bangkok for 5 years. I was an elementary school sports teacher. Great gig. Still think about the kids. And that's where a book came across my path called The Tao of Health, Sex, and Longevity. And it was by Daniel Reed. And it was all about traditional Chinese medicine, how they go about living in that system of self-care, from meditation to diet and exercise to martial arts to meditation to breathing to acupuncture to tonic herbs and pooping. There was a just true story. An enlightened poop changed my life. So I was over at the pool with the middle school PE teacher, and we had kids in the pool. We had taken taken them through the class, and I'm thumbing through this book, and it showed the difference between what happens to people's intestines, colon. I know Americans love that word, colon. I'll say it again. The difference between when someone's sitting on a Western toilet and squatting. And it made sense. I needed to go to the bathroom. So I went in, squatted down on the toilet, and had one of the best poops of my life. I've stood up, and it was like I had a cup of coffee, and I was clearer, and I could breathe better. And I went to our vice principal had just gone down to a detox facility, a cleansing resort on an island in the Gulf of Thailand called Koh Samui, where I did my second 5 years in Thailand. And he said that the people that own that resort modeled it off the book. I said, I'm done. I'm in. I'm going. So I went down there and started cleaning up my diet and my lifestyle, which was very necessary. I was in need of that. And then one night, my third trip down, 2003, I saw a man who would become my mentor. He gave a workshop on emotional detoxification, and he walked this woman through. It was a legit stinger of a breakup story. She was all hung up about getting in a new relationship for good reason. This was a bad breakup. She was still hurting, and he took her through the story. First time, angry, tears. Second time, changed some of the words, made it clearer and a little bit more accurate. Now she's sad, no tears. Third time through, went from focusing on his actions to what she could do now and a couple other things. And now she's essentially emotionally neutral about it. I said, that's not my story, but that's my story. And I've been neck deep in the game since.
That's interesting to me. And I think many people can relate to some version of their own version of that story. So I hearkening back here, going almost 30 years back in my life. And I've never told this story. I think I've told it to Casey. So besides Casey, it's probably nobody really knows it, but, my life goal my goal in life was to become a Marine, right? That was my career path. That was all I focused on through high school. Went through boot camp, graduated, became a Marine, got the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor, went into the Fleet Marine Force, was deployed. And this is going back to the Cold War era, not the most current wars. And I ended up hurting my back really bad in a training accident. And to the point where the story ends with getting a separation from the military, right, from the Marine Corps, and under medical conditions, honorable discharge. That story, similar to yours, just kind of set me off on this. I'm not good enough. I wasn't strong enough. I was a failure. What am I going to do now? And I think it just wreaked havoc on my sense of self for many years. And, eventually there's an evolution, right? I came to the point where I started looking at myself differently and changing the words I used a little bit. And I started looking at as not so much as a failure, but what did I learn from that experience, and where can I take that in my life and become more powerful as a person, as an Unbeatable Mind coach. So, with that said, Procabulary, tell us a little bit about that system. And I guess the follow-up question after you tell us that is, was it natural for you to be able to right away change your use of words and the stories you created about yourself or for yourself?
Okay. Yes. A few things come up with that. Back injury story, not good enough. Casey mentioned initially, we're going to talk about phobias. Let's talk about the biggest phobia. The biggest gorilla in the room is telephobia, which is the fear of not being good enough. And when life throws curveballs, which it's gonna throw them. Okay, we're getting them. A a lot of times that triggers, this, it's likely the number one fear. Triggers that in people. And when someone is, we don't learn this stuff. We're not taught in school. I've got a degree in education. I got brought up in the public school system. I've seen it on both sides of the fences. We're not educated about how our language, for better and for worse, influences our imagination, our feelings and emotions, our breathing mechanics. Okay, let's talk about something very important. How is your story? How is the story that I'm telling myself about myself in the world influencing my breathing? No, absolutely not. Was this normal for me, nor was it natural? If I have any gift, it's a gift of interest. When I saw what we call in the lifted procabulary community, or our coaches, what we call story work, the minute I saw it, something clicked. I said, I'm going to learn about this. And there's very few things that hold my attention. I also pay attention to what I pay attention to. Martial arts held my attention from start to finish. I still practice a little bit. Cool. It's fun. And so does this, which is why I was a horrible student, because I was bored out of my mind with that stuff. I don't want to sit in this desk and learn about God, no. Who cares about this stuff? You put me in front of something that's interesting, intriguing, applicable. Okay, now we got a different conversation going. So it was very unnatural for me to inquire about how what story am I telling myself about myself, and then how am I telling myself that story? What words am I using? What words am I using? And this will partly answer what is procabulary. What words am I using that force me to focus on the problems? How am I talking myself out of opportunity? What words are, again, good word to use, forcing me to blame other people for the stuff that I need to clean up on my side of the fence? What words am I using to create excess amounts of indecision, which that definitely accounts for a percentage of people's stress. We've got a soft talk. You guys started with it. Soft talk keywords: think, might, maybe, sorta, kinda, perhaps, guess, almost like, try, hope, one day. Do not be a one-day person, folks. Be a two-day person. There's a difference. The elevator pitch for procabulary is that it is a productivity tool. It helps people organize what they think and say so they stay focused on what's important to them. All of the most successful people that I know have cultivated that ability to stay focused on the things that matter to them, regardless of the weather. And we're not taught this stuff. I didn't have any classes in school on how to stay focused.
Isn't that a powerful thing? Wouldn't it be more powerful, perhaps, for our kids to be taught how to speak, not just to remember stuff, not just route memorization? I mean, it seems like we're missing the boat in several areas, but this one in particular, if we were taught how to formulate and talk to ourselves first, right? Before we even start talking to others, how we see ourselves and the words we use when we have that internal monologue. I think that would be exceedingly powerful to raise resilient children.
What a wonderful world that would be, and what a wonderful word that is: resilient children. 100%. We're seeing, and I see a polarization happening. Again, I live in this world of helping people educate themselves about the potency of their language. And over the past 5 years, it's gotten easier and easier to talk to people about this stuff. So we had a booth at Paleo Effects 2019, and people would come up. I think there's 5 or 6 people. They had different books with them about different subjects, and there was a section in these books about the power of our language. So there is definitely a growing market for people that want to learn to use their language to strengthen themselves and make themselves more emotionally, more resilient across the board, to raise their psychological and emotional immune system. There's also a demographic of the population that are practicing lowering their psychological and emotional immune system. They are giving credit to and incentivizing people to be offended. Mm-hmm. That's playing with fire. That is absolutely playing with fire, and it's going to end very, very. Some of those people will never recover. So the majority of our business the past 18 months has been certifying coaches. I've done a lot of sessions, individual sessions. I've given a lot of presentations, and now we're teaching people how to coach with this stuff. And I know what it takes to undo belief systems that are working against us. Okay. The person has to be invested on many levels. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to watch. I watch Courage on every single class that I teach. And it takes some elbow grease. It takes some elbow grease so when someone gets it, once someone has trained themselves to see other people as the villain in their life, it's and especially after they've repeated this narrative over and over to the point they're addicted to their victim mentality. Mm-hmm. It takes an act of personal congress to change that. The definition of the victim mentality is very telling here. The definition of the victim mentality, it is an acquired personality trait where a person tends to regard himself or herself as the victim of the negative actions of others, even in the absence of clear evidence. The victim mentality depends on a habitual thought process and attributions. I took a little bit out of the middle. That's the verbatim definition. That second sentence is so telling. The victim mentality depends. It has to have a habitual thought process. Habitual accurately implies duration and addiction. And so, yes, you start changing your words and you're going to bump up into the parts of you that are addicted to the old story of you.
So when you have someone that has had this victim mentality for most of their lives and they're in that habitual state of doing it and that addiction to, where do you even start with someone like that? Or how do you get them to start identifying that they are thinking that way?
Okay. Phenomenal question. World-class question. And here, do they want help? Do they want some help? Do they want to change? If someone doesn't want to change, Tony Robbins and a pound of DMT they aren't going to make a dent. Okay. So assuming that someone sincerely wants to better their life, okay, they want to improve their relationships. They want to build their confidence. They want to lower their stress levels. They want to turn down the drama. They want to stop shit talking themselves. And someone falls into that category, then the most reliable place to start that conversation is to pick up the pen and start writing down your thoughts. The difference between trying to navigate stories, belief systems, which are opinions, let's call them for what they are. Belief systems it's a fancy word for an opinion. Trying to navigate stories and thoughts, decisions, fears in your head versus navigating them on paper. The world was flat, now it's round. Because when it's in your head, it's just swirling around. It's seemingly infinite. It's just, where does it start? Where does it stop? Oh, there's that scary picture again. I tighten up. Don't like that. Let me bartender or any other way of avoiding this stuff, because most people either fight their stories, because that's what I was doing. I was fighting. I externalized my internal fight, and I was fighting to prove that I wasn't scared, because I was scared. And some people run from it, either fighting it or run from it. No. That the internal war is so heavy and so expensive. It's the most expensive thing in the world. People battling their victim centricities. I know I was the king of that stuff. Pick up the pen, even though it feels like 500 pounds, and write out write out your words, not half of a sentence. Write out the whole sentences. Write out. You think you're tough? Write out the statements, the 10 statements, ideas about yourself that you would least like people to know about, that you're most scared. I've seen that. People shake at the idea of writing down their worst beliefs of themselves. And that's how you break spells. So back to the magic. The definition of a spell is a word or a combination of words of great influence. That's it. And when someone's practicing, because let's call it for what it is. Someone's practicing, no one will ever really love me. Okay, that is a combination of words that is greatly influencing that person. And if you want to break that spell, which is easy to do, folks, when you know how to do it, it's know how and know to. Know to do it, know how to do it. You write the damn thing out conversationally. No one will ever really love me. Okay, great. And get the next thing down, and then the next thing. And then all of a sudden you've not only are those sentences now finite, okay, in your head they're infinite, seemingly. When they're on paper, they're finite. They've got to start, they got to finish. You literally now have some distance from your eyeballs to the paper. And then begins a process of, unlearning. The definition of unlearn is to undo the effect of. There's nothing special about me. If I can unlearn a decent amount of my victim mentality, which I have, how do I know that? I like being me now. Before, I did not like being me. I was not comfortable in my skin at all. I kept myself in a sympathetic nervous system response state, stressed state, because that's what conflict language does. That's what the victim mentality does. Okay. And my breath was trapped in my chest. Which most people's breathing mechanics are wrecked because of these long standing, we got a glitch in our language. I breathe so well now. My breath is low and slow and down in my abdomen where it belongs. And that's, if your breath has to get down there in order for you to feel comfortable in your own skin. Has to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm rambling.
No, I think you've made some really incredible points here. And a question for you. Do you have a preference, pen and paper versus typing? Do you have any thoughts around that?
Great question. I prefer pen and paper. And it's there's something more organic about it. And I've seen some world-class work done on a computer. We coach off of Google Docs. Okay, so for all you coaches out there, you want a fantastic way to curate story work sessions, or whatever you call them, however you facilitate changing your clients' stories. Get them on a Google Doc. So you're on a Google Doc, they're on a Google Doc at the same time. You're literally on the same page. You can put down immediately what they just said and then work on it. You can have them write out stories and work on it real time. I've been doing that exclusively for the past 6 years with my coaching. And that's what we teach our coaches to do. And it works like a charm. Another thing is to practice slowing down your rate of speech. So where do people start? What a phenomenal question. Pick up the pen, put it to paper. Okay. Write conversationally. Write the scary stuff. Shout out to Jordan Peterson. Confront the dragon, get the gold. Slow down your rate of speech by about 15 to 20% and watch what happens. When someone slows down their rate of speech, they're going to breathe better. When someone breathes better, you gift yourself more mental real estate to connect dots between what you think and say and the outcomes, how your words are influencing yourself. You get to, it might sound a little bit weird, but you get to feel your language. You get to feel your words more. And you also become a much better listener. When someone's breathing is trapped in their chest, we've all had emotional conversations with someone, a conversation with someone who's very emotional. Okay. It's known as amygdala hijack. Look it up. People don't hear. You can't hear. It's like talking to a brick wall. And then the third piece of advice, take out the soft talk. Man, you guys started with it. Let's keep going with it. The soft talk keywords, I guarantee you will feel a massive difference in your feelings. You'll also sound different if you take out 50% of your soft talk keywords. I also guarantee you they're in there. They're in there because we got a collective issue going on. And when someone takes out the guesses and the mights and the maybes, there's a time and a place for them, yes, to be used consciously, yes. And the 97% of them are used accidentally and unconsciously. Pluck those words out, the sort ofs, the kind ofs, the maybes, and watch what happens. You'll say a little bit less. You'll feel a lot more solid. You'll sound different. You'll make decisions a lot easier.
Yeah. So a couple things came up for me there. You had mentioned how expensive it is. So I'm going to presume that was opportunity costs, right? What does it cost you as a person, as an individual in your life, not to change the story you're telling yourself, not to break out of that? What are you missing? Yeah. What opportunities that could come along that are presented in front of you each and every day that you're not even aware of because you're stuck in a fear loop, a victim mentality?
Yeah.
I thought that's very powerful. That's very interesting, very philosophical.
Yeah.
And for me, that's one of the most important things. One of the biggest catalysts for change for me is what could I be doing? What have I missed? What do I not want to miss? Life is for living. Life is, get out there and do it. Change your story. Be powerful. Be the most powerful person you can be. Now I'm rambling.
No, it's good. I'm tracking it, man. Good way to pick up on that word expensive, because there's a lot of different kinds of expenses. And my general answer is, what's the opportunity cost for telling yourself a quote unquote negative story about yourself and the world you live in? Everything. Your time, your energy, your relationships, your finances, your peace of mind, sleep. The victim mentality is the thief in the night. It's the thing. It's the scourge on planet Earth. I will debate anyone over that. And there's some science to back this up. So once upon a time, 2018, and more importantly than science, people's experiences to back this up. Once upon a time, 2018, my car got stolen, Richmond, Virginia. Yep. Walked out to where it was the night before, gone. So I call my dad. I said, "Hey, Dad, my car got stolen. I need the farm truck." So I go out to the farm. It's a true story. I go out to the farm and I get one of my father's prized possessions. Bought it off the showroom floor in 1985. 2 tones of brown, mint condition. We call it Brown and Browner. 1985 Ford F-150. I drove it into Richmond, started driving it around, and within 24 hours, guess what I started seeing all over the place? 1985-ish Ford F-150s. We've all had that experience. You get in a car and you start driving around and you start seeing more of those cars. You're like, where are these cars coming from? They've been there the whole time. So what's happening with that phenomenon is something, and anyone listen, I'm assuming everyone, you're interested in growing, getting better, personal development, professional development, knowing about your, as in it's in your brain, it's hardware, your reticular activating system, your RAS is huge. So the RAS is involved in that phenomenon of getting in a car and seeing those cars more out and about. And because once something is programmed as important, whether it's right or wrong, up or down, it doesn't matter. Okay, the RAS is completely indifferent to winning and losing and what's good for you, what's not. Once it gets programmed as important, it goes on a search and edit mission. So once that Ford F-150, because I was staring at it, getting in it, getting out of it, was programmed as important, it went on a search and edit mission. I'm going to find more of these things, and I'm going to edit out anything that's not that. And guess what, folks? Our RAS, it pays attention to more than just 1985-ish Ford F-150s. Here's two stories. Is it okay if I drop an F-bomb on here?
Of course.
Okay, very cool. Because it makes the story that much better. You'll see in a second. So, and it works for better and for worse.
Hi, this is Andy Panfield, Chief Adventure Officer at Fierce Planet Adventures and licensed Unbeatable Mind Coach. If you're listening to this podcast, chances are you're the kind of person who never settles for anything less than they can be in all areas of your life. But right now, there's something telling you that you can do more, be more. Stop holding yourself back. As an Unbeatable Mind Coach, I help committed people get extraordinary results. Unbeatable Mind principles have transformed tens of thousands of lives. Individuals wanting to reignite the passion and sense of purpose they once had, or find it for the first time. Successful professionals who want to experience fulfillment in all areas of their lives, not just business. Men and women who want to know how to navigate VUCA times, volatile, uncertain, chaotic, and ambiguous. Times like we're experiencing right now. Those wanting to feel a strong sense of confidence and purpose. People looking to find a way to leave a legacy and be the kind of person they know they can be, consistently. Men and women who have this gnawing sense that they can do more, be more. Learn the big four skills of mental toughness and emotional resiliency. Discover your passion and uncover your unique purpose in life. Your calling, the one thing that sets your soul ablaze and gets you out of bed in the morning. As a licensed, Unbeatable Mind Coach, I am thrilled to be able to offer you the opportunity to work one-on-one to help you download the entire Unbeatable Mind operating system to guide you on your journey to become unbeatable, so that you can effectively deal with virtually any situation that comes up during these VUCA times. To learn more, direct message me on Facebook or Twitter, or email me at info@fierceplanetadventures.com to set up your free consultation. As a special thank you, you'll receive a link to get 30-day trial of Unbeatable Mind Foundation's online training. Act now. Available coaching opportunities are limited and they fill up quickly. Direct message me today at Fierce Planet Adventures on Facebook or Twitter, or email me at info@fierceplanetadventures.com to set up your free consultation. Stop holding yourself back. Act now to become unbeatable.
And let's go, remember spells, combination of words of great influence. That goes two ways as well. There are constrictive spells. You know, I screw everything up. That's a spell that it creates pressure on me. It's tightening. Okay. Then there are spells that are expansive. I'm getting better at this. Both of those are combination of words. One crunches my imagination. One expands it. One traps my breathing. One expands my breathing. One points me in one direction, one points me in another. Here's two stories, clients. Well, one's a client, one's a story from the road. This woman comes in, sits down and says, I'm having a problem with my marriage. My husband thinks I'm beautiful and I don't believe him and I know where it's coming from. Oh, do tell. She's 10 years old. She walks into her grandmother's house. As soon as she gets in the door, her aunt leans down and goes, "My, you have a big nose just like me." True story.
Well, you know, we laugh at that, right? But that could be very damaging.
Oh, it was, for absolute 1,000% to her and her husband, their marriage. So what happened? Thanks for that. This little girl tightens up, runs in the bathroom. What do you think the first thing she looks at is?
That nose.
Her nose, which is, of course, no bigger physically than it was 5 seconds ago. But now she's got a big honker in her imagination. And because she's got a big schnoz, she's ugly. And so now that I have decided that, now that she decided that she is ugly, the reticular activating system goes on a search mission for confirmation. I'm going to focus on, she was focusing on the nose. She was finding other things that were wrong with her to support this belief system. And anything that was antithetical to that belief system was being edited out, parried out. So her husband was like, sweetheart, you look great tonight. You don't mean that. You think that's going to get in the way of, let's say, everything in a marriage? 100%. The other side of that coin, 2014, I'm giving a presentation. This guy's setting up a booth right next to me. He heard the whole thing. He couldn't help it. He comes up afterwards and he says, hey, man, that was really cool. I like that a lot. You want to hear a good story? Who says no to that, by the way? No, good. Right. Me, good stories? No, no, thanks.
Yeah, is this going to take a while? Or
Yeah, right. And he said, my grandfather took me out in the backyard when I was 12 years old. I didn't catch the guy's name. We'll call him Johnny. And he said, my grandfather goes, little Johnny, life is a lot of things. You're going to get some things right. You're going to get some things wrong. There's going to be ups and downs and zigs and zags. Just always remember to err on the side of being a badass motherfucker. And he said his whole life changed in an instant. He said he felt like he grew. He just took a big breath in. He looked up, saw himself in his imagination as confident and competent. And he said, man, I've made so many mistakes, but I've also gotten a lot of stuff right. And I go after what I want.
That's powerful. That's great. Wow.
This is happening all day, every day.
Few of us, I think, well, let me restate that. We all operate in different roles within our lives. Husband, brother, son, leader, team partner. And I think that sometimes, we have different views of ourselves in different roles. And perhaps sometimes we talk. No, not perhaps. I think that I can honestly say that this is without a doubt what I've seen in my life is I will be a very confident and decisive speaker and writer in one role, but when I go to a different role in my life, not so much perhaps. And I think that recognizing that we all have different roles we play and we talk differently to ourselves about those roles and how we show up. And I think where we're going with this is, once you uncover that, once you have that awareness, you can really change how you show up in each different part of your life, in each different role, to be that more confident, more assertive person.
100% correct. I'm a different person in one sense when I'm around my father and my stepmom than I am with the guys kickboxing in the gym. Okay. And then there's another version of me that when I teach, okay, these are different identities. These are different hats that I wear. And the more that I know about my words, the better identities I get to create. I get to build in those environments with those interactions. And there's some through lines there. When I'm with my nieces, I want to be breathing well. Okay. So so I'm comfortable first and foremost with myself, and they feel comfortable around me. And on that's a really important note. On a side note, by the way, everybody, you want to have fun going out on dates. Practice breathing well. You'll be a much better listener, and you'll be comfortable in your own skin. You want to get on stage, So I used to, before, the COVID times, I used to give a lot of presentations, and I also coach people presentation skills. The first thing we talk about is get your breathing low and slow. Okay. Because you're going to, the chances of you, let's just cut to the chase. The chances of you, first things first, I want you to enjoy yourself on stage. When someone watches someone on stage giving a talk about it doesn't matter what, and they are enjoying themselves, my God, that's a breath of fresh air. And so, and that's what got us into the fitness industry. We have two brands. We have Procabulary. That's for the general audience. That's what started it. And then Enlifted, which big shout out to Mike Bledsoe. And we went on Barbell Shrugged January 17th, 2017. And we went on there because we had something to say about how our language, about the direct correlation between what we think and say and how well we breathe. And as far as fitness is concerned and physical output is concerned, I mean, what's more important than breathing? I mean, there's a lot of things that are very important, and breathing's up there. I'm willing to, I'll put my money on that.
We as humans are wired towards the negative, I think. Fight, flight, freeze response. And when we actually take a moment to breathe low and slow, we activate our parasympathetic nerve response, and we just calm down. We can take in more easily, more readily, be more aware of what's happening to us and around us, within us, and we can show up better, right? We can better navigate stressful situations. So that's a very important point.
1,000%. We gift ourselves. So back to your original question, what are we losing? What's the opportunity cost when someone, and there's a variety of ways to create quote unquote negative lenses. If someone's telling themselves, it's so hard to get ahead these days, or everybody's out to get you, or men are dogs, or women are gold diggers. I mean, pick your statement. I'm literally creating a lens and a filter, and I'm editing out all the guys that are good guys, and all the girls, the women that are good women, and then I'm editing out the opportunities. I find that wild.
Right? Who hasn't done that in their life? I mean, I can attest that I've certainly done that over the course of my life, and it narrows your focus, and not in a good way, right? It narrows your view of what is possible, who's out there, who could be on your side, who could be your advocate.
Thank you. 100%. When someone is, we talk about breathing a lot. Every podcast, every class that we teach, when someone's breathing in their chest, when they're in that victim-centric state, when they're in that sympathetic nervous system response state, and the breath is trapped in the chest, this is one of the reasons why it's so hard to change our perspective. I'll go so far as to say impossible until we change our breathing mechanics. As long as the breathing is trapped in the chest, I've got tunnel vision. Okay. As the breathing descends back down into the abdomen, which is 100%, we facilitate that with a word choice. Then I gain my periphery. I gain distance, and I get out of that knee-jerk reaction, that tunnel vision. As long as I'm super emotional about something, I'm locked on that thing, and it is true. For better and for worse.
Right. Creating identities, right? You touched on that just a little bit. And for someone who is trapped in that weak pattern, in that victim mentality, how do they transform? What tools can they use? Can you give an example of what that might look like?
First things first, know that you can. No, it's back to the know to and the how to and the know to. And we gave a TEDx talk on this. So the current definition of identity is the fact of being who or what a person is. And that's a very fun idea to dispel. Dispel means to cast out. I did it on stage. Raise your hand if you see yourself differently in any way than when you were 5. That's all of us. So what does that mean? That means that our identities are not facts. They're not static. They're ongoing, fluid, flexible processes. And we participate in those ongoing, fluid, flexible processes with our language. And when I mean language, I mean internal and external. What I think, what I say, what I write. And knowing that that's an option, that you have options in the identity that you create, that usually takes people a little while to noodle on. Mm-hmm. Okay, go ahead, take your time. It's worth every moment that you invest in learning about the know-how and the know-to when it comes to storytelling. Because that's what we're talking about. Storytelling. We're storytelling machines. We're relentless storytelling machines. We're telling ourselves stories about ourselves all day long. And that's just and then there's what's come out of our mouth. I mean, to say it's our language use is relentless it's accurate. It's usually let's just say it. It's the first thing people recognize when they wake up is their own voice in their own head. And it's the last thing that they register before they go to sleep. It's not like somebody gets up, goes to the bathroom, drinks some water, hits the coffee machine, and then they start thinking. No, it's what a great thing to learn more about, as in what keywords, what words create what stories, and what stories create what identities. So in Procabulary, there's a subset of the English language. In our terminology, we call it conflict language. Okay, there's 3 pillars of it. One of those pillars is soft talk. And then there's the antidote to that, which is architect language. What does architect language do? It helps you become more solid and confident. It helps you stay focused on the things that are important. Become solution oriented, as in you train your reticular activating system to see the opportunity and to see the solutions, and take responsibility for what we're doing for ourselves. Here's another story about marriage. This guy walked in, sat down, and we got into the story. Took a little bit of conversing to get him to the main sentence that was holding the whole blame game in place with his wife was, "She made me think we needed to get married." I said, "Great. Write that down." "What do you mean?" "Write that down. What you just said." Yeah, that one. And he did. Pen to paper, folks. It's potent. Mm-hmm. She made me think we needed to get married. A couple of questions back and forth. He scratched out the he or she, put in I made me think we needed to get married, which turns out was the truth, much more true. And then from there, he gained more autonomy. Who likes being massively codependent on everything for how we think and for how we feel? It's hell on earth. I need you to treat me with more respect so I feel better because I can't do it for myself. So hurry up. Nah. That's what's happening.
Indeed. Yeah.
Something I thought of while you were explaining that was, once you are doing this deep work with yourself and you're more comfortable with yourself using that positive language, how does it change your interaction with other people or your view of relationships with others?
Makes everything a lot more smoother. The worse of a relationship you have with yourself, the worse your breathing mechanics you're going to have. And if you want to have bad relationships across the board, personal and professional, trap your breathing. Okay. Again, you'll tend to have more monologues than dialogues because listening goes down when the breathing is trapped. You'll be more touchy. Okay. More sensitive to things. Does anyone ever say, "Hey, you got to meet this person. They're so fun. They're one of my favorite people. You're going to have a blast." You can't say anything to them. Nothing. They're just no one ever says that. It's the exact opposite. When the better relationship that you have with yourself, the more comfortable you are in your own skin, the more clear you are about where you've been. Guess what? We've all got pasts. Where you are right now, where you could go. And you train yourself to, let's just say 65% of the time, focus on things that are going kind of okay in your life and what you could improve upon. That's a big deal. And you're gonna have a better outlook, and you're gonna breathe better, and things will be more fluid and smooth. You'll be more fun. You'll be more likely to laugh. People that, trust me, I didn't laugh for a year. People that breathe in their upper chest, I am so out of position to laugh. Now, you want to make yourself, we've heard accident prone. You want to make yourself, laughter prone. Loosen up. Get your breath down in your abdomen. I know I keep talking about that a lot, folks. It's a very big deal. I mean, it's yes, we're known as the language guys. Okay, fine. And the mission statement is to unlock the breath of humanity. And that can happen.
Yes. Yeah. I've found most insights that I've had in my life have either come from breathing practice or journaling.
Yeah.
Being able to pick up on those repetitive statements or thinking about my thinking, journaling.
Thinking, yes. I'm going to think about my thinking. That's great. Yep. Great way to say it.
What thoughts are coming up? And then the journaling, specifically to your point, was having those words on paper was, well, to use another word of yours, magic. It was picking up on those little subtleties that I never would have noticed otherwise. And just seeing it change and being able to look back and reflect and see how I felt as I was changing those words it is kind of like magic. It does something to you where, like you said, you're picking up on more of those positive, what could happen, what can happen.
Oh, yeah.
And blocking out a little bit more of the negative. So it is quite an amazing experience and journey.
Yes, we're employing our imagination, which, I mean, you talk about magic. Does anyone know what the imagination is? I mean, yet we're using it all day long. It's an absolute mystery. And let's play this game, the who you gonna bet on game. So who you gonna bet on? Contestant A or contestant B? Contestant A, I've got all these dreams. Or contestant B, I've got 4 specific goals. Everybody goes with contestant B. Why? Because they're focused. There's that word again. The difference, folks. And we talked about a lot of about the victim mentality and things. This conversation is 1,000% applicable to goal setting too. The difference between a dream and a goal is a dream is in your head, a goal is written down. Once your pen hits the paper and write your goals out conversationally, it now becomes 10 times, 1,000% more likely to happen based on a 30-year study of goal setters coming out of Harvard and Yale. Only 3% of the population has any written goals. What does that mean? That means 97% of the population doesn't even have a draft to hand in. Wow, wow.
Yeah, that's a recipe for failure right there, right? Or at least not living your life to its fullest potential.
For sure. It's so easy. There's so many good YouTube videos on goal setting. Look them up, watch them.
Something that you had mentioned just a little while ago was our first words. And when I had this revelation, when this was told to me a little while ago, a year ago, that each morning when we wake up, we have the ability to choose our first thoughts and our first words for the day. This is where you start winning your day, right? And the words that you choose are really important. The way you talk to yourself is important. Why not choose positive words and positive thoughts? Boy, I've got this crappy presentation I have to do today to a bunch of people I don't want to be with, or man, I've got the opportunity to really nail it and shine and be my best self. I'm going to learn something today.
The ability to choose, like the know-how, the know-to. It makes life more fun. I mean, let's how simple can we make this? It makes life more fun. I was entrenched victim mentality barely starts to cut it. I didn't have any fun. I was not having any fun. And even before that, I didn't enjoy being me. My business, that's what one of my business partners, very smart lines, one of many. The guy's, genius. If you enjoy being you, then you win. You're winning.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So, having fun with life. I mean, who doesn't want to have a more fun life right now? Who couldn't use a little bit more fun in their life during these trying COVID-19 times, right? Here in the States, there's a lot of crazy going on, a lot of unhappiness, and we could all benefit from this right now, right here. And it's really simple, but you have to learn the process. You have to learn the tools. And that's where Procabulary comes in.
Procabulary is a choice. It's a choice. There are a number of language systems that you could study, and Procabulary is one of them. So whether you do it with us or do it with somebody else, or just do it. Learn more about how your words are influencing you, and write things down. Write your goals down. Okay. If going in, I totally understand this part. If going into the stories that have haunted you seems super daunting, well, I totally understand, because sometimes it is. Start with some goals. Okay. Research goal setting, research reticular activating system. Get that conversation going in your mind, in your head. And if someone invested 3 years, part-time on the clock, learning more about the words and the stories and some neurofunction, some neuroscience, study the goal setting, you will be a completely different person. 3 years is going to happen, folks. And, shout out to John Kehoe. This is not the trial run. This is not the trial run. It's not. And most people's language forces them into a spectator role in their own life. How sad is that? You want to be an interesting person first and foremost for yourself. You want to be an interesting person for other people. Take some calculated risks.
If you've got a moment longer, I'd love to hear about your coaching program.
Yeah, this is so cool. I know cool is an opinion. For us, this is a very big deal. We're about to graduate our 100th coach. Wow. So our level 1 certification is all about, at the end of the cert, our students graduate confident and competent in how to resolve their clients' hang-ups, issues, fears, problems, call them what you will, on a word and story level. They understand people get more training, they get more valuable training, education in that 3-month period of time than most people get in their entire lives when it comes to the potency and the mechanism, the mechanics of storytelling. We're all about the how. The why, that's plenty done. That's cooked. Stick a fork in it. As far as work, we're all about the how. How, like I said earlier, how am I talking myself out of opportunity? How am I participating or / creating the drama in my life? Okay. How am I scaring myself? Learn about the words, learn about the mechanics of storytelling, learn about the power of writing things down. And the search, they're equal parts personal and professional development. Our students get put through with some extra stuff because, they're coaches, they got to be ahead of the game. The exact same coaching system and methodology they get applied to their story as they go through the certification. It's the same one they will turn around and use with their clients. Our coaches crush. They just absolutely do. We've had, we've been very lucky. We attract really cool people, man. We got a great community going on. We're just getting started. We've got level 1, level 2, about to graduate level 3, our first level 3 in a month. And this is what I'm going to be doing this for a long time, folks, straight up. After 10 years of this work holding my attention, I had no more questions. I said, okay, I get it. I'm in, I commit. And I got on my calendar and I scrolled down so I went pro January 17th, 2007. That's when I started story work as a professional. I scrolled to, it took me a second, January 17th, 2057, and put it in it's true. It's in my calendar. That's my last day on the job. I give my last presentation then. And so that means I'll be in the game for 50 years. I'm going to do this for 50 years. I'm 13 in. I got 37 more. And after 50 years, I'll have said everything I can think to say, and I'm out. I don't know what I'm going to do. Anything but this. So we're just getting started. We've got a little bit of street cred for the people that know about us. We're relatively unknown. Okay, so what? And our coaches are on fire. We're building something very special here.
Awesome.
Each professional started as an amateur. Each CEO started as an employee, right? So
totally,
we've got to start somewhere, and we go from there. We build. We use our words. Words to stories. I think I'm going to take this from you. Words to stories, stories to realities.
100%.
I love it. Mark, how can our listeners find out more about Procabulary and your coaching program? Where can they go?
For the coaching certification, go to enlifted, enlifted.me. It's a 6-minute promo video on it. If that's interesting to you, book a discovery call with me. I love talking to people I meet through the podcast and wherever. And then for Procabulary, procabulary.org. If you're more in for an online course, click on courses, watch the promo video on core language upgrade. That's the online course that started the whole all of it. And there's this thing called Instagram. I think it'll catch on one of these days. I'm Mark England 2020. It's 80% education, 20% entertainment.
Nice.
Awesome. And I know you mentioned it earlier, but I want to give out, a shout out to this. Your TED Talk, very powerful. I would encourage folks to watch that. And then you've got a couple of videos up on your YouTube channel that are also very informative, that kind of give a good recap of what we've talked about today in case anybody wants to get a refresher. Thank you so much for joining us. This will definitely, Mark, be our most successful, our most listened to podcast of all time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for everybody for listening. Words, they're powerful, folks.